3. Engineering Graphic Model Passport, Schematic Description. The curatorial and patent dossier of Alexander Rai's second patent includes 5 fundamental hardware graphs. Figure 1. Phase interference graph of coherent waves. This is not a painting to be looked at. It is an architecture of perception, built according to the laws of Quantum Theo Realism. In the KTR system, the brutal matter of the canvas becomes a living flow not due to the subject matter, but due to the precise calculation of how the gaze moves across the surface. Here, sacral brutalism is not an aesthetic, but a mechanics. Every stroke, every contrast works as a guide for the eye. And this diagram is a perceptual map of the painting, an instruction for the gaze, where to accelerate, where to stumble, where to stop, and what exactly to see. Now let's break down the graph, strictly element by element, as if tracing it with a finger on the board. First, the vertical y-axis on the left. This is the phase difference axis. It is along this axis that we read the perception mode of the canvas. The phase difference here sets the state of the field, from full acceleration to complete stop. On the right is the auxiliary vertical axis. It does not add new data but duplicates the logic of the left one, so that the viewer instantly grasps the state. This is the gaze acceleration from 0 to pi scale. At the bottom, 0, the start, pure motion, the gaze glides freely. At the top, pi, the limit, a complete stop, the break gate. Together, the two axes give an instant understanding of where the gaze is currently located along its path. Next, we move to the rhythmic fields, the foundation of the entire diagram. Here it is, the black sinusoid. This is the rhythmic field of texture, the physical relief of the canvas, the matter in its raw, tangible form. To this relief, the light rays A1 and A2 are added, and an optical grating emerges. It is at the junction of relief and optics that the green wavy line appears. This is Rai's pigment haze, an optical mist that binds matter and light. Importantly, the green line always runs strictly above the black one. It is its light imprint, its double in the reflection field. Next to it is the blue line. This is the rhythmic field of geometry, the structure, the guides, the rhythm that gives the painting its vector. In the QTR system, this line forms Rai's vector flow. It does not repeat the relief but organizes the movement of the gaze within the canvas space. Now let's look at how these fields interact. When the rhythmic field of texture is at its peak and the rhythmic field of geometry is also at its peak, and they are in phase, constructive interference occurs. The phase difference at this point is 0. This location on the diagram is marked with a hatched rectangle. Here, the 0 perception mode is active. The gaze glides, receives an impulse. This is the acceleration zone. The rectangle here is not a barrier but a guide. It sets the rhythm and literally pushes the gaze further along the flow. When the rhythmic fields of texture and geometry are in antiphase, destructive interference occurs. This is a fixation node. The phase difference here equals pi, and the perception mode on the scale is pi. This is the break gate. On the diagram, this zone is marked with a red hatched rectangle. Again, this is not an impenetrable barrier but a guide of special density. It stops the gaze so that it can register the detail. After constructive interference, the gaze moves toward the next zone, the contrast and direction funnels. These areas are marked on the diagram with red circles. These are activity density zones. This is where the gaze is drawn after acceleration. At the center of such a funnel is the density peak, the QTR activation node, forced pupil fixation. The perception mode here equals pi, the break gate. The eye must stop and process the information. The red arc on the diagram shows the micromovements of the eye, Wei. It is these activation nodes that the eye reads. Wei pulsates and stitches the fixation points, holding attention where the painting's design requires it. At the bottom of the diagram is the formula for the final effect, the resonance of all fields. When the rhythmic field of texture, the rhythmic field of geometry, Rai's pigment heat haze, and Rai's vector flow enter synchronization, the living water of Rai effect emerges. On the board, it is called the dynamic moiré. When the static haze acquires flow, the water begins to vibrate and flow, extending beyond the boundaries of the painting. Resonance and the living water of Rai effect. The fundamental triumph of this architecture lies in the fact that the effects of sacral brutalism are not isolated here but strictly synchronized. The interference pattern visualizes the point of singular superposition of two laws. The standing wave heat haze of Rai's pigment heat haze, matter and relief, intersects with the directed kinetic photonic path of Rai's vector flow, geometry and light. Observation is carried out from a distance of 2 to 3 meters. It is at this distance that the physics of perception closes into a single circuit. The involuntary micromovements of the eye, almost equal to 30 to 100 Hz, enter resonance with the spatial frequency of the canvas texture. The phase shift sets the rhythm of this resonance. As a result, the ultimate living Water of Rai effect emerges, a dynamic moiré of extreme frequency that physically animates the canvas. The red circles on the diagram are precisely the QTR activation nodes, critical points where the viewer's attention density reaches its maximum due to the forced fixation effect. Under the influence of the vector flow, the stationary haze acquires dynamics. The water begins to vibrate, flow, and rush forward into the room space.